Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. Hello, don't panic. December 16th, 2008. Hi, it's Mike. Thanks very much for your support. Thanks for watching. For those people out there that have sent me comments and messages and so forth, yes, you have to look at all these different potential scenarios out there and then sort of give it a weighting. You know, how likely is this going to happen? How likely is that? So, for instance, how likely is it that the US dollar will become similar, hyperinflated like the Zimbabwe dollar? This is 100 billion Zimbabwe dollars. I've included a link at the bottom to a couple of images of these. You can print your own and carry it around in your wallet and show that to people and say, you know, 5 years ago, this was $1. Now it's 100 billion. Good tool. How likely is it to happen? Okay, it's not very likely, I will admit. But there is a chance. There is a small chance. If governments don't turn off the printing presses, reduce the quantitative easing, as it were, in time, then you can see inflation and hyperinflation. Go figure. Okay, first news story. British banks losing billions to one big lie in biggest ever fraud. Right. So this is Bernard Madoff and his hedge fund. And basically it was a great big pyramid scheme. He would take money from new investors and give it to the original investors and pay the dividends and so forth that way. And he figures it's around 50 billion that he's managed to evaporate. And of course, some of the biggest banks in the world had money in this fund via other funds, and some of the biggest pension funds were in there. And he had companies, he had a bunch of different companies, and they've all closed. And people are out of work everywhere, and lots of people in the States actually have lost basically their entire 401k, their pension plan. It's just evaporated. And he's probably going to spend a number of years in jail for this. But the one question, of course, is who else has been doing similar kind of rather tricky things? And why wasn't the Security Exchange Commission really nailing him on this one? We may never know. Right. And so this is what's referred to as a Ponzi scheme. Now, why is it called a Ponzi scheme? I've included a link here to the Times blog archive, where you can read all about Charles Ponzi and how he got away with this for so long and how he got caught. So, next story. Britain faces worst recession in living memory. So says the Cabinet Minister Tessa Jowell. Now, Tessa Jowell is the Minister for the Olympics, because London will be hosting the 2012 Olympics. And this is actually a very good thing, particularly in this economy, because as she says, facing a recession deeper than any we have known, almost certainly. The Olympics is, it's economic gold at a time of economic need. It is creating jobs not just in the East End of London, but also creating business and commercial opportunities for firms right around the country. It is a £6 billion shot in the arm. Now, one of the things in there was the reporters listening to her said, facing a recession deeper than any we have known. Now, Tessa Jowell, she's a cabinet member. She sits at the big table that meets once a week, whenever, when Gordon Brown says, oh, everybody come round, we're going to talk about what the heck's going on in the country. So she has inside information that a lot of people aren't privy to. So, Alistair Darling, the Chancellor, which is like the, Treasurer, he's like Paulson in the States, has insisted that the British economy will begin recovering next summer. He's insisted. It will be next summer, 2009, June, July. Yeah. However, his prediction is now regarded as overly optimistic. The Conservatives, which is the opposing party, describe Miss Jowell's comments as a stunning admission of the government's true position on the scale of the economic downturn. The remarks suggest that the government are considering the prospect of Britain facing a 1930s-style depression rather than a traditional recession. Yeah. You only just worked that out, did you? Okay. Lots of other news. Those are the main headlines, and that's what everybody's going to focus on. So I thought I would look at some other things. Right. Bloomberg you got to take everything you read on Bloomberg with a pinch of salt. You just never know where they're getting their stuff from. However, this one's actually quite good, because they're actually talking to the people involved. Now, UK small companies shunned by banks turn to insolvency firms. Okay. First line here. The letter came after Peter Pratt's... Peter Pratt? That's a name for you. If you're in the UK, you would see the humour in that. Peter Pratt's bank manager assured him his credit line was solid. The October 31st note from HSBC ordered PP Engineering, that's his company, to repay £120,000 in loans and overdrafts by the end of January. So they gave him 3 months to pay up this loan. It also increased the interest rate. I thought we were going to be closed, said Pratt, 50, from his office in Bristol. I was shocked. Our bills have always been paid. So, like I said, the government is trying to force banks to lend to each other and lend to companies and finding ways of getting money out to companies. But they haven't, really pushed them yet. And Mandelson said a few weeks back that they were investigating, and they would make a decision after Christmas. I think it's going to be too late. However, Essex. In Essex, the county on London's northeast border, I used to live in Essex. It's a really nice place. Great countryside, everything. Fabulous place. The local council is planning to start its own bank, modeled on US regional lenders. We've had more and more small businesses that aren't able to access funds at the moment. They're very reliable companies with good long-term prospects. Yep. Now, one of the things you might be wondering is, why the banks have got all this money now? We've given them all this money. Why aren't they lending it out? The banks know a few little dirty secrets, and they're not telling you about them. I'll include a link here to a YouTube video called Mortgage Meltdown. This is from CBS News in the States. It broadcast this last weekend, December 14th, whatever, about what's still to come. And if you Google this and research, when these things are actually going to start hitting, you'll understand why the banks are holding on to their cash. Because they can see this thing coming like a bloody steamroller. And is it going to take 1 year, 2 years to get over this? Nope. There's another 5 years of this nonsense coming. Okay. Rant done. Okay. A couple of fast stories at the end. You've been poked. Now you're homeless. Okay, if you've got Facebook accounts, you'll understand what being poked is. I have to get rid of mine, but never mind. In what may be a legal first, an Australian lawyer has used a social networking site to serve legal documents on a couple who defaulted on their mortgage. Because basically they ran away and hid. And nobody could find them. Lawyers couldn't find them. They couldn't serve the default notice on them. So technically they weren't allowed to actually go and repossess the house. Because they couldn't find them. Well, the lawyer, Mr. McCormick, put the details provided by the couple on their mortgage application, including their email addresses and date of birth, into the Facebook site. Less than a minute later, he had tracked them down. So if you're planning on running away and hiding, I suggest you change your internet identity as well. You too can defeat cruel dictators online. It's linked over here. I won't read much of it. But essentially, it's a little story about what's called the covert internet and how you can hide on the internet and what you can do to protect yourself from being found, should you care. Last bit. Hello, Australia. Hello, New Zealand. Your dollar is doing great, isn't it? It's amazing. What does it say about the US dollar? The US dollar may weaken for the rest of the year as the Fed continues to cut rates. Well, that's only 2 weeks. And moves to a purer form of quantitative easing. See, there's that word, quantitative easing. You're not supposed to know what it means. Crank up the printing presses, boys. Let it fly. Start throwing money in the air. Fill envelopes with them and post them to every American. Hey. So the Australian dollar is currently roughly 67 US cents. That's very good. So let me show you a book. Now, I read this at the beginning of the year, and this is how I know some things. You might want to try and find this. The Second Great Depression started 2007-2008, ending 2020. Now that it has started, by Warren Brucey. And he goes into all kinds of statistical analysis as to what the heck's going on and what you can expect. And he basically says, it's not going to be 2 years. It's not going to be the summer of 2009. The economies of the world will not recover for at least 12, 13, 15 years. That's what you got that's what they got planned for you, folks. Okay, everybody. Take it easy. Cheers. Peace.